it's like the first time that you came to light may have been frightening actually for those around you, okay? Just confirmation there. If you are here watching this video, it's because you are a very important person with something fragile you're preparing to present to the world. You had to sacrifice something to get here and see something differently. Maybe something you had to see something that was familiar to you in a new way. You may have had like this period of your life or a long time in your life where you felt like maybe people were dissecting you and maybe putting you on a pedestal to be like observed and maybe even poked at, maybe even pained. But definitely you were like an object of people's adoration and obsession and objectification. You were an object of objectification, and I think that period, I think now you're on like the other, you're sort of like having an out of body experience, even if it hasn't been so literal, but where you're on the flip side and more like viewing yourself how others view you for once, instead of being like just on like the inside of things. Now you're sort of like on the outside of yourself, witnessing what you have to offer, okay? And you may have felt like during that era that you were walking on like a tightrope, or like when you were getting from point A to point B. Point A to point B is just your previous state of mind to your new state of being, okay? And all of this was mostly done in the dark, and what that means is, I mean, if you see your cards, and let me just show you your cards, okay? Like, this is the first card we pulled, followed by the second. Okay, this is the next one. And like, if you take notice to these, and like this one, even though it looks bright, like if you notice, like, you know, the building's lights are all really prominent, so obviously then it's nighttime. Like, what I'm taking notice to is like how this journey for you has been done almost exclusively in the dark. Okay, and then what's really interesting is this first card that we get that's in the light. It's like the first time that you came to light may have been frightening actually for those around you, okay? Just confirmation there, but if you like look at this card, you know, this, I don't know why it's not focusing. But the ice cream or like sucker is, it's like it's fearful, it's like afraid, you know. People around you, those observing you, may have been fearful at the display of you once you were truly awakened, because before, you know, when you were in this position and they're like, you know, they're putting you on the pedestal and they're like objectifying you and they're adoring you and watching you, you know, you're sort of like a zoo animal or like a, you know, a displayed thing. They're witnessing like your grandeur in that idle position, but then they're sort of fearful. You know, it's like a tiger. Like, if you watch them, if you watch like something as great as a tiger or like a great white, you're mesmerized. And I think people were mesmerized by you before, and I think they tried to own that. Okay, you may have dealt with people trying to own like the ways in which you mesmerize others and like control it. Okay, maybe they even tried to like dim it. Like, let me dial that down a little bit because I don't want people to be so attracted. I've seen that and I want to own it, but I don't want others to see it because then they'll want to own it. So it's like once people did see that in you, they tried to own it. but getting back to that, like, tiger or, like, great white thing, it's like, you're mesmerized by just the display of them, okay? The idle existence of those beings. But then when they actually, like, and when they are actually doing a tiger's thing, when a tiger's being a tiger, and they're doing, you know, tigery things, and a great white is doing great white things, you're frightened. That's how people feel about you, okay? It's like, before they were mesmerized because they're like, oh, look at this grand, like, mesmerized, I mean, I don't know any other word. You're sublime, okay? People don't know how to take you in. They're in awe, okay? So we use all these other words like, oh, they're adoring, they objectify, they're obsessed, but like, to experience you and to witness you is a sublime experience, okay? And like, look up that word. It's like when something is so terrifying, you're also in awe of it. Okay, that's what sublime means. And I'm being actually called, I just got like cold chills, and I'm being called to like mentally, there's this like form of literature, and it takes place, I can't remember when exactly it takes place, but I think it's like 1700s or 1800s, and I think it's English literature, but there might actually be American literature as well, and it's like, I don't know if it is called sublime, but it like literally focuses on the sublime. Okay, so it's like these writers would go to places like mountains or like beautiful lakescapes, or, you know, places where nature consumes you. Like, people feel like you consume them. But then when you actually show an act of consumption, they are frightened. Okay? So it's like this era, like, don't let people's fear of you, like you need to just do your little tiger thing, do your great white thing. Okay? And what's interesting is, you know, in this beginning card, I'm like, you have a lot to offer. You have a lot to offer that's, oh my gosh. I was just so scared we weren't recording. We are. I was just so scared that we weren't. But, okay, so you're like, I told you in the beginning, you're like holding this fragile thing, okay? And like, it kind of looks like a doll, like a baby doll, but it kind of also looks like an egg. Okay, but then like in this card I just pulled, you have like all these dolls, and it's like, I feel like, you know, getting back to this discussion of like people are frightened of you and like this and that. Okay, don't worry about that. You're like collecting up your innate abilities. Okay, it's like you're going in and you're coming back out with like this collection of stuff you're able to do, or like stuff you have to offer, and you're very like multifaceted. Okay, and it takes retrieving all these separate parts of yourself to become whole. Okay, you're just a complex being. And don't let other people's perceptions of you have anything to do with how you express yourself. Like, it has no relevance. It really doesn't. How others perceive you has nothing to do with your expression of yourself. So, like, the fear in that, you know, I don't really know what, I really don't know what to say about that. Except for it's not relevant. Don't focus on that. You need to have focus on what is relevant. Okay, so like prioritize what has relevance to your path. Okay, which is what has relevance to this fragile thing you're trying to bring. Don't focus on what you've sacrificed. Focus on the new lens that you've put on things that are familiar to you. Okay, nothing's asking you to like become something new. Nothing's asking you to do that. Okay, you are, I think, transforming mentally partly is the change that's happening here. Okay, and then outside of that change, because that is the A to B thing that's going on, that you're tightroping on. Okay, and I think really you know, hold on. You know, the only thing that wants to come out about this tightrope act is just I'm being called back to this pinned image of you. And it's like, you know, I feel like the reason you're tightroping from A to B mentally is because nothing is changing. Okay, and you are seeing familiar things in a new way. So it does require this tightrope thing because you're transforming things that aren't necessarily changing, though they are. Okay, it's kind of complex, but I'm sure you're going to understand because you're going through it. I mean, I can relate to these messages like myself in ways, so I'm sure you'll be able to understand like how that message is like relaying to you. But so there's this message of you getting from point A to point B, and it's like you transforming a perspective, okay? And also you have something fragile you're holding that you are delivering to the people. Okay, that's just how it's coming through. But you're getting this thing like out to the people, and you're a very important person, okay? And this thing that you're having, this thing that you hold is very fragile. Okay, and getting back to this image of you doing the tightrope, okay, it's all in the mind. Something is becoming, you know, if you notice, you know, we don't know everything. We don't know everything, and we'll die not knowing everything. But if you know, so there's a couple of like windows over here that aren't illuminated, but if you look over here, there's a lot of windows that aren't illuminated, and where you're going, there's less windows that aren't illuminated. Okay, so it's like you may just be becoming like simply enlightened to something, but becoming enlightened has been you know, an act of itself to manage. I don't know, I'm almost getting like it's been a struggle almost, but you know, it's not a struggle you're unfamiliar with, so maybe it's not a struggle you're unwilling to put up with to get to the other side. Okay, it's not a struggle you're unwilling to, it's not a hoop you're unwilling to jump through to get to where you're going. You know, I feel like this is so, your message is so beautiful, but what's the perspective and what's being illuminated? Okay, I feel like what's becoming illuminated is you. Like your perspective, you're connecting with yourself. So this A to B tightrope thing is like, it's almost like you are transforming while staying in the same place. So obviously that's the tightrope act, because you're not wanting to agitate or upset anything within your environment, because none of that is changing, but you are changing. And you also have something to offer, but this, what's becoming illuminated, okay, is you. You're connecting with you. Like all these facets of yourself are coming together into a single stream. And after this unification happens, okay, I don't really know what the rules are, but okay, so on, you know, on this card, there's this girl's holding like this red lizard, and she also has a red bow, and her cheeks are red. Okay, so I'm like feeling like the message here is you're becoming closer to yourself, and in becoming closer to yourself, unifying more closely to your passions. And once you are unified, okay, once you cross this A to B tightrope situation and you come into knowing yourself, you are going to release like this bull onto the world. Okay, and I'm being called onto like this red again. You know, like before you're unclothed, but you're holding this thing still. Now you're clothed in red. Okay, you're wearing your persona. Okay, you are who you are, and what it ultimately leads to is sweet victory. Okay, I need to pick up a card real fast. 14:12 on my timer as I say that. But if you notice, you know, earlier, let me see, where was that? You know, when you first showed yourself, people were like, yikes, okay? But after, you know, after your painting is done and they can see the whole picture and read the whole book and, you know, see know the whole plot. You know, people like to feel, people are creatures of comfort, and comfort comes from understanding. So when they can't understand you, they're discomforted, and you might feel discomfort because of projections, okay? But like, in the end, they are like sedated in comfort really by like your visions and like what you've brought to fruition. And it's even going to lead to, ultimately, a lot of people, okay, are going to be there. You're going to have a lot of evil eye, just as a warning, and people, you're going to have a lot of haters. But these people are going to be people who are anxious to copy you, anxious to like wear your shoes and walk in them, and they're ultimately watching you put on your show like beautifully and gracefully, and come into yourself. Okay, that's what this journey is for you. And when you come into yourself, whatever it is that you have to offer the world will come with you. Okay? So we're going to leave your messages off there for today. If that resonated, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.